and the Canes might be building something after all.
Canes are back.
Are they fully? Time will tell. But after their win last night over Detroit, it's a lot more optimistic than it was after their 5-game trip through Canada. Detroit was the second highest scoring team in the NHL. Detroit was. Carolina held them to a goal. 1.
Detroit actually might be back.
It's reverting back to the mean.
Everyone's back for the holidays.
We in a little bit of a funny world there for a while. Here's the deal. The Canes, their last 2 games have looked like the Canes we've expected them to look like all season. 2 games is better than 1. It gives you more of a chance to believe your eyes, believe what you're seeing. Pyotr Kochetkov had 25 saves, some of them really, really good, right? Some of them the type that system the Canes play defensively call for. Right? The whole goal is limiting the other team's opportunities, limiting their chances, limiting their high leverage chances, but you're also being a bit more conservative on the other side. So when a goalie has a chance to save you, he has to save you. Kochetkov did that for a night. Sometimes he saved himself. We saw that also.
I was just about to say, I don't know if Pietro heard me when I was joking around by saying I guess both goaltenders forgot how to clear the puck properly, because after that,
he almost got the primary assist on a goal against himself.
Yeah.
But he scrambled back into goal. Got the stop. That's the difference, right? Both goalies made horrendous mistakes. One of them was just able to salvage the save rather than give up the cheap goal, which is exactly what Jordan Staal was able to take advantage of on the other side for the game winner. Let's hear from Rod Brind'amour talking about Pyotr Kochetkov and the performance last night.
Last two games, he was solid, and the other guy was making a ton of saves too, and they got to match it, right? That's kind of the game that goes on within the game sometimes, and you got to give their guy a lot of credit. Made a ton of saves, kept his team in it, and so Kuch had to match it, and he did.
Stefan Nason stays hot. We're going to have this Stefan Nason conversation at some point where it's how high do you vault him in like your star rankings? Like that guy is playing some hockey.
I tell you what, Jack Drury.
He deflected the Nason shot for the goal, just to give the background. Now continue.
Yeah, and also scored a goal himself.
Yep.
How long before we need to start having conversations with signing Jack Drury long term?
I mean, again, it's first world problems, right? It's my as I say often, my private jet's taking too long to refuel. It's a complaint that isn't really a complaint. There's a lot of guys that deserve more contracts moving forward for the Canes, and you're going to have to pick and choose the right ones at the best clip possible. We talked about it yesterday, right? You'd probably, if you could go back and do it over, would have kept Shane Gostisbehere, who's playing very well for Detroit. You're not going to get it right every single time, but looking at all of the guys that they have that are on their last year of the contract or are nearing the point in their careers where they're looking for another contract, like Drury amongst them, there's some guys that are going to make some money. And then there's the stalwarts. Jordan Staal gifted the go-ahead goal.
I'll be your father figure.
You hate to look at a one play in a hockey game especially and say that was kind of the issue. That was the thing that cost your team the game. But not being able to clear that puck and pretty much letting it just fall into Jordan's lap for a goal, I think the Red Wings are going to look at that one and say, I'm pretty sure that was the one that lost it for us. Here's Jordan Staal after the game about their efforts and how they finished the road trip with 2 straight wins.
Yeah, started the road trip from hell for a bit there, and obviously boys, grinding the last few and found a way to get in a little bit of a groove. And I thought Kuch played really well the last couple games as well, and kind of was a really difference maker for us. And grinding on the win.
I mean, that right there, just the fact that they're going to be coming home tonight for their game against Nashville with momentum is a task in and of itself. It's an accomplishment in and of itself. And you know what it was? The focus was there. That's something we hadn't seen, right? They've during this road trip, that especially the part they were struggling on, the one mistake almost always led to another mistake, right? It was I don't know if they were pressing. I don't know if they were too tense. But as soon as a mistake was made, almost always it was compounded with another mistake until eventually you either had given up the lead that you had earned or the deficit you were facing grew to almost insurmountable lengths. It like look at we talked about the Kochetkov mistake, right? He essentially, fed Kane for the goal. Like it looked like it was intentional. But instead of letting that mistake become another and then giving up another goal and then being upset and giving up another goal, got back in and made the stop. He was able to scramble back. Right? That game last night shows so much. That game last night is part of why you need to be locked in. The difference was there was one miscue for each team, the goalie. One major miscue that was going to, if you put the Benny Hill music behind it, it could be on the old school blooper reels on Wide World of Sports. Like one miscue for each, but it only cost one of the teams. That's the whole difference. The whole difference was once you made a mistake, did you let it beat you or did you stop it? That game also shows why you have to do everything you can for this roster. When we talk about making a move for a goalie, even if Kochetkov is playing really well, if Raanta isn't, you still need the goalie. Or if Kochetkov goes into a bit of a slump and Ranta's playing, like, when this team is good, it's really good.
When you have everybody contributing.
When you have everyone contributing, when you have Nason locked in, when you have Jarvis Pepper in the goal with shots, even though he wasn't getting a ton of wins, right? He wasn't getting it into the net. It wasn't being successful. He was peppering the goal with attempts. He was being aggressive. When that team is good, they're really good, and you don't want to look back on this season with any regrets, right? Put your chips on the table. Sometimes I wonder this, right? Because if you look at this Canes team, like their championship window, if you call it a championship window, probably opened up 2 years ago. Sometimes I think teams become obsessed, and this goes across all sports, with extending the window. Right? I want to make sure we can win over the next 5 years, and I'm going, well, at one point, you have to push your chips in the middle, or else you're going to end up just being I'm trying to think of a good example here, maybe cross sport. You end up being the Titans, the Derrick Henry Titans, where they were good for 4 years. But it never really felt like they were a Super Bowl contender, and they also never really went all in, right? You never saw them make the move where you trade a first-round pick for Von Miller at the deadline to come in and be the last piece on a championship team. You never saw them really make the move to go get it. I want to make sure the Canes recognize the team, as it played the last 2 games, proves it is good enough to make waves, but you might need to make a big splash. You might need to push your chips in the table and say, you know what? This might hurt us 4 years from now, but it's better for us right now, and we're going to go get our championship. The difference between what could have been a horrendous trade, something like the Broncos trading for Russell Wilson, and what could have been a horrendous trade like the Rams trading for Matt Stafford, is the Rams got their 1 Super Bowl, right? They went all in. No one's ever going to say that was a bad trade. If you don't get that 1 Super Bowl, all right, it kind of looks like a bad trade, right? At some point, you have to go all in and say, this is the year we're going to win it. It's not about having a 10% chance to win it each of the next 5 years. It's about having a 60% chance of winning it this year. And last night kind of proved that to me.